Are you seeking a better way to accelerate your sales, to scale your business, to live a life with no limits? Accelerate Sales Podcast features global experts who have cracked the code to recurring revenues with proven sales systems and get you on the fast track to scaling. Now let's accelerate your sales with today's episode.
Hi, I'm Paul Higgins and welcome to the Accelerate Sales Podcast, episode number 453. You're going to learn a lot from this, but three things in particular. One is the value of picking a niche, and more importantly, how you really brand yourself in that. The second is the three legs of scaling a cloud consulting business. And if you don't have all three of them, you're going to learn lots. And the last one is what marketing activities to actually work on. So what works, but also how do you resource those internally? If you're a first-time listener, please subscribe. It's for cloud consultants. And if you're consulting and deploying a SaaS platform, you've definitely got the right place. And if you're a regular listener, why don't you give me a shout out? Like, it's lonely as a podcast. You don't always hear from people. So please just email me at paul@paulhigginsmentoring.com. There'll be a summary in the app. Also, you get a full transcript at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast. And before we go into the interview with Barry, I'd like to thank our sponsors. The first is the Cloud Consultants Collective. It's where peers go and talk about business. It's fantastic. It's free. It's on Slack. You can go to cloudconsultantscollective.com to join. And SendSpark, it's a great video platform. And what I love is where you can have a core video that you give to everyone, but you can have a video at the start that's personalized. It works wonderfully. You can get 6 months free at paulhigginsmentoring.com/SendSpark. Our guest today is a leader in high-tech consulting, staffing, services, and solutions who understands how to motivate multiple sales teams and develop rewarding client relationships. In the last 10 years, he has grown a Microsoft Gold business by 600% and has plans to go to 1,600% in 13 years, and he shares those with us. He has a direct team of 30 employees, but he also has 30 consultants. He lives in Canada, has been in Ottawa for 36 years, and that's the same time that he spent in the industry, but he certainly doesn't look that, as you'll see in the interview, and he is the fastest 62-year-old in a swimming pool. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Barry Doucette. Fantastic to have you here, Barry.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So I'm very excited about, the first thing is you got a fantastic LinkedIn profile. And the thing that jumped out at me is 600% increase in 10 years, right? So we're going to dive into that. But why don't we kick off with who your ideal client is and what problems you love to solve for them?
Our ideal client is Canadian federal government, and I would say also large enterprise. Right now, it has been public sector and mainly the Canadian federal government. We're in Ottawa, which is the nation's capital. So that's our ideal client right now, particularly around information management. What we solve for our client is information management in Microsoft's M365 platform. Our background over the years was mainly a SharePoint and SharePoint experts. And so we've taken that expertise and moved it to M365. And we've been helping the federal government because they're actually developing documents in M365. Let's manage those documents in M365.
Yeah, brilliant. And how long have you been vertical focused, i.e., the government?
Well, we've been probably about 10 years. I actually bought the company 10 and a half years ago. We definitely had public sector, both let's say provincial, like Ontario. We had some municipalities and some government, federal. But in the last, I'd say really 9 years out of those 10 years, we've been really focused on the federal government.
Yeah. And when, I'm assuming, was the business a bit like a renovator's delight that you sort of, bought the house, but you knew that there was plenty of upside? Tell us a little bit about the reason you bought it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. A renovator's house. Yes, I knew the four original founders and came in to coach them a little bit strategically and realized they had some issues. And then initially bought 51% of the company, and about 3 years later bought the other 49% of the company, so 100%. And you could see it. It wasn't being managed very well. I tell a funny story. I was on on a train, and I showed the financials to I think it was a third year business student, and she said it's a management issue, and it really made me smile. So that's the way I felt about it too. It seemed like there was a level of excitement. It seemed like there was something there. We just had to figure out how to make it and grow forward with it.
Yeah, great. And how much of the original team is still here?
None of the original team. There was 4 founders. I bought 2 out when I bought 51%, and I bought the other 2 founders out when I bought the 49%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have, as I mentioned, I do have one employee who's been with me 3 months after I bought the company. So he's been with me for 10 and a half years now.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. And, you know, 600% increase, right? It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
And targeting that vertical. But just tell us a little bit about the go-to-market strategies led to this fantastic increase.
We did 2 things smartly. Of course, you're always looking for recurring revenue, and how do you make that occur for you? The federal government, when you do consulting, you can get large consulting contracts. That's a piece of it, and we were doing that. About 6 years ago, we sat down as a leadership team and made a strategic decision to really focus on some third-party software that we had. At the time, we were probably doing about $200,000 a year, but it's repeatable. So we said, let's focus on software. We did that. We're doing anywhere between $6 and $8 million of that revenue now. So we grew that significantly over the last 6 years. We also then really got focused on the information management side with the Canadian federal government, particularly when they moved to M365. And we were already in that space and doing some really smart things. And when COVID hit, the government was going down M365. Now everybody's working from home. They absolutely had to do M365. So we were positioned at the right time, and we've been working it for a couple of years, definitely.
That's brilliant. And what were the third-party softwares that you...
There's some great third-party software, and I call it around the ecosystem of Microsoft. There's an email management tool called Harmony out of Israel. We've got a digital adoption platform called WalkMe. They just went public recently. We have a governance and backup tool around M365 called AvePoint. They went public recently. Yeah. And we have a great workflow tool, I think out of Australia, called Nintex, which was built on top of SharePoint. And so we've done extremely well working with those 4. And we have a few others. But those have been the 4 that really propel us forward. And when we do information management, we bring those 4 tools to the table with our client and decide whether it fits or does not fit the client.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I call it the chocolate wheel, where the client sits in the middle. They've just got this, you're serving all these different products to them. Right. So it's a brilliant model. And you talked about recurring revenue, right? So tell us about what are the parts that are recurring revenue in your business?
Well, both software and consulting are pretty well reoccurring revenue. Now, this definitely the software. It's renewed every year, pretty well SaaS model, and that's been fantastic for us. And then the implementation of the software. But now the large IM projects in M365, they are anywhere between, let's say, $2 to $10 million projects, and you're probably doing $1 million to maybe $2 million a year on those projects. So they are renewal every year. As long as you're doing the job, full on project plan and full on developing for the client, implementing for the client, and bringing intellectual property to them, it really works that way.
Yeah. And, you might be hearing Barry and saying, this is fantastic, but I've always thought government is long lead cycles, long sales cycles, it's tenders, it's painful, right? What's your experience been with the government?
Yeah, it's 100% long cycles. I won't say painful. They're our clients. They're, they really know what they want, and you need to really help them. And also, maybe not everything. They know what they need, maybe not exactly how they do it. So our job is to help them realize we're the experts. I like to say to everybody, we have deep domain knowledge in information management. We know how to implement this for you. Like anything else, you need to really differentiate yourself. And we've done an extremely good job of that. Of the last 5 or 6 contracts that have come out, there's been one bidder, and that's Orangatech, because they are very difficult RFPs. You must have done the following. And some of it also is, intellectual property, we do have our own artificial intelligence product called Tag AI. So you must have done that as well and implemented that for the clients. We have it in production for one client, and probably will implement it for 3 or 4 more in the next year.
Yeah, great. And is that, if you look at the perfect model that I always talk about, it's, you've got your consulting, which, you turn into recurring revenue, which is great. Then you've got your software licenses, that's brilliant. And then the other opportunity is creating your own SaaS products or your own products on top of, right? So
the third wheel. And, I heard one of your speakers talk about, he'd call it the 3 stools. First of all, you have a process. Secondly, you have such an advance on anybody that it's going to be really hard for anybody to reach what you're doing, which I fully believe no one will do what we've done. And thirdly, you have technology to back it up, and that's our own IP. So we're doing all 3 of them, and I've been pretty excited about that.
Yeah, brilliant. And any tips you've got? Because I know some people say, like when you're developing your own, it's like, you need to carve out the team so that they're not caught up in the day-to-day business. Like there's some, management and structural ways to get the software development right. What's been your experience?
It's challenging. We've thrown this around for a long time. Do we do it, not do it? Our CTO came off contract and really focused for about 9 months on developing the product. We just hired an extremely senior and smart product manager, literally signed the contract probably 2 days ago, and he will bring a team in. He'll start bringing a team in. You're absolutely right. I've seen it before where that software can get really exciting for everybody, and the company maybe loses a momentum, and we're not allowing that to happen, right? We've taught this team, they're over there. They will develop, they will market to our clients, but everyone else stays focused on the task. I really fully believe our team will do that. So I know that, the government funding, we have a particular way in which you can fund your company or your software development. They would want you to split that out and make it a different company. They don't think a consulting company can do that. I think we can. Yes. And I'll be arguing with them in the next month saying, no, we will, and we have, and this is what we're doing. So we'll definitely continue going forward that way.
Brilliant. And with the government, with the longer sales cycles, right, do you find that there's a lot of churn, like i.e. there's a lot of internal promotion and you're dealing with different people all the time, or is it more consistent?
Absolutely. At all levels. One of our key CIOs just told us he's leaving January, just found out this morning, and that happens. And so what we've done is we've gone out and made sure we have a great name in the marketplace, a great brand. And we've got on certain things. One of the things when I was talking about, you're going to love this one, about 5 years ago, we started something called the GOC, Government of Canada, M365 Council. At the time, it was called O365. We do a monthly, we have a department come on board monthly now, and they tell their M365 journey to all the other departments, Canadian federal government. That's been absolutely fantastic. Our name's out there. I wouldn't say never. We literally put one slide up. I bet I went 2.5 years before I said, hey, should I tell you guys who Orangatech is? Right? And now we put up one slide and we do an intro. The intro is 5 minutes, one slide in that 5 minutes. Most of it is introducing our client who's presenting or the department that's presenting. That was fantastic for us. So, you're trying to build those long-term relationships. Yeah. Also, I personally belong to an organization called DPI, and I'm on the External Advisory Committee, and they have all the CIOs 4 times a year together with us. And so I built the long-term as an organization and where we focus on those relationships. It's tough, as you said, they do change. Yes. But when you have a good reputation, the people leaving will introduce you to the people who are staying and vice versa. So it does work.
And what was that acronym again?
DPI. Used to be called, it's a 60-year-old organization, and it used to be called Data Processing Institute 60 years ago. Yeah. And it's professional. They have a professional development week once a year. It's phenomenal. And for 3 days, and they bring in great speakers and they bring in now because now it's hybrid, upwards of 4,500 IT professionals in the Canadian government, and we're there.
Yeah, brilliant. And, you and I had a discussion before we went live around the great work you've been doing on LinkedIn, right? And you talk about this brand, right? You've got this great brand. Tell us, some of the secrets of what you've been doing on LinkedIn and how you're building this brand.
We, I've done a lot of it. Originally, sort of being the marketing guy. I know one of the gentlemen who's been 10.5 years. He said recently, he did the marketing. So now we have a full-on director of marketing and partnerships, and he's also has a marketing lead working with them, and he's actually now hiring a marketing coordinator. So we're an organization of 30 employees, and we have 3 dedicated marketing. But I always took LinkedIn very seriously. I tried to mention this to a young guy one time. He said, I never got business off of LinkedIn. I'm not sure it's always about driving business. It's about having a brand and having people know who you are. I mentioned that one of the competitors or a large Microsoft Dynamics partner was recently sold to a big organization. I called one of the leads there, and his first comment to me was, "Congratulations, Barry, on having the largest prominent Microsoft partner in Ottawa." And I'm like, how do you know that? Because I'm not talking to him, and I'm certain it's the LinkedIn profile that we have. So we certainly have an Orangatech LinkedIn profile, and then I post things. A lot of my employees post things. We're even a lot more active now, where we're definitely putting 2 or 3 posts out a week. You know what? I once took this picture of buildings, and here I'm standing with some clients. You do want the client picture in, and here's the street of Ottawa. And someone said to me, and this is a great key, and I'm sure you would agree, need to put people in those pictures. So I could have taken a picture of my employee with me, and so I did a lot of that. Where you're showing employee fun. Maybe you're out with clients, and if they're okay getting a picture taken, you're on a client's site. Do things that are fun, and people will follow you and like what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And what I love about LinkedIn is it's what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? And that's where you don't know the conversations. Like so many times, I've had people 3-4 months. I've been following you for 3 or 4 months on LinkedIn. I love your content. I've been listening to your podcasts, etc. I'm blissfully unaware of it, but the only way that you can get that benefit is by doing it, right? And that consistency, like you said, posting we post 3 times a week. We know how to get the algorithm working. Like some of my clients are getting, 250,000 impressions a post. So, you just think of that knock-on effect that it's having. So, and I think the other thing that really helps, which you've nailed, is actually standing for someone, right? Be a vertical, like when someone comes to your profile and when someone looks at your post, they know exactly who you help. Right. And there's, unfortunately, I don't know, you listen to Barry and I, and you're just starting out on LinkedIn. It's like, but I've got to be to everybody, right? Because there's always an opportunity. No, the tighter you are, the further it goes, right? It's a bit like throwing a rock over a pond, right? You try to throw a rock, how far can you skim that? Whereas if you got that, that nice little rounded flat rock and you throw it, it can go so much further. And I think that's a key. And around, do you do any outreach or anything other than posting on LinkedIn?
In what way outreach? We do, as I mentioned, that Government of Canada M365 Council. That's been fantastic. We've been part of what's called Public Sector Network. We're doing that once a quarter now. So we will sponsor it with one of our partners. We'll have a speaker online, but it's pretty well I think a 4-hour session once a quarter. We get maybe 15 minutes in there, but we're a sponsor. So that's exciting. We're doing definitely outreach to community as well. One of the things that the Army has been doing in Canada, in Ottawa, is having an Army run, and that gets 5,000 people out. It's based on the Marine run down south, but it's been 15, 20 years old. We just sponsored that for the first time. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of fun things like that, trying to be involved with our community. We have a saying: invest in our clients, invest in our employees, invest in our community. Those are our 3 pillars, and we're doing a good job of that and growing it as we go forward. Lots of outreach. There's a SharePoint Saturday now called M365 Saturday, which was held on a Friday recently. For 10 years, Orangatech's been the only company that's been a premier sponsor for those 10 years. There's been other premier sponsors. We've been the only sponsor for 10 years, premier sponsor, right? So you sort of, as you said, pick a niche, stay there, know that you're growing it, know that you can see it's growing. If you need to change. Try to stick to something and give it time, for sure.
Spot on. And I think it's, that's that terrible saying of land and expand, right? To use the army analogy, but it's like, once you do it, it's like, myself, like I only really started, specifically for cloud consultants at the start of 2022, and already, yes, people come to me because they know I've heard that you're the guy that just does cloud consultants, right? So I could have picked any consultants in the world, but very specific. It helps that I loved it, and it helps that I built and scaled a business in it. But I think you're doing, and that's why you're getting your 600% growth, right? You're doing all the right things. Now, as far as Microsoft, I know there's been a couple of changes lately to their partner program, etc. How have they impacted you, or have they impacted you at all?
No, we haven't felt they've impacted us at all. They've given it, sort of a year grace on what's called the gold certified. But whatever level, so that does help us just get prepared for whatever level they need us to be at, and we'll be at that level when it's time, when it's there.
Yeah. And do you get any leads at all from Microsoft?
Yeah, we do. We've done some smart things. We don't sell Microsoft products. I rarely get paid for selling. No, never been paid for selling a Microsoft product. But they've been really smart in putting proper funding in place for us when we're doing things to help them and their clients move forward. Yes. So there's significant money there that can be that, and we're starting to tap into that. Yeah. And certainly, when they can see their clients continue to use M365 and grow up that path for Microsoft, we allow the clients to do that, and it helps Microsoft and help our clients for sure.
Yeah, great. And their co-marketing activities.
Sorry,
their co-marketing activities.
Yeah, in some ways, yes, absolutely, and they've been fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So I know you're very excited because you've hired or put in place a GM role, right? So you can work more on the business than in the business. So how long did it take to make that decision, and what have been some of your learnings so far from doing that?
It didn't take long. I intended to do it this May, and I moved it, so I moved it to 13 months earlier. I think I mentioned to you, I got a little bit of trouble from COVID. I think the stress of thinking you have to maybe let people go. All our clients who said they'd buy from us bought from us. We've actually tripled in size, so we didn't have to let anybody go. But I think that stress, and also 8.5 years of really, no one ever sees the blood, sweat, and tears, and yes. You know it, and you work hard at it. And yes. I'm a very driven person, so I realized that I need to make a decision earlier. I had already been talking to I mentioned a gentleman, my general manager now, who is now 10.5 years with us. So I looked at him and said, "Are you ready to go?" Because it's now. And so we jumped at it last April. It's been fantastic. When I look at things we try to accomplish, two things was having a full-on decision-making management team. And he has that now. We have, 4 leaders directly responding to him or reporting to him. Yes. If we include our CTO, there'd be 5 as well. And then, so he does have 5 reporting to him, but 4 that are the leaders working with him, leading the company. And I'm, in some ways, the CEO, almost chairperson, which is great. And I really do get to think about strategy versus tactics. I always say my job is to say, what about this? And their job is to say, we're not concerned about that, or we are. And if you are, thank you for pointing that out, Barry. This is what we're going to do about it. Thank you for pointing about that, Barry. This is what we're not going to do about it because it's not an issue. And that's worked out really well for us, really well.
Yeah, brilliant. And what are some of the new directions you're focusing on at the moment? This time you've got back, what are some of the really big strategic plays you're thinking of making?
Certainly continue to focus on, as I mentioned, the great example is, I've been saying for some time, team, we've got intellectual property. First of all, in process. So who's documenting that process? I've got a team doing that. Secondly, we've got a product. What are we doing about that? So, a good friend of mine reached out, as I mentioned, he's a genius in software development. Barry, do you have a project I can handle for you? Yes. So we've hired him on contract as of literally this week to focus on that product for us. So I can look up and say, I've got time to tackle this, and this is what we need to do. And then who does he directly report to? Do he directly report to me or somebody on the team? Those kind of things. So you can really think that way. I think as well, continue to talk high level to our high level clients. Yes. Was able to hire a fantastic VP of sales 4 or 5 months ago. We've doubled the sales team since he came on board. And he's got a list of our CEOs that we want to go talk to. And him and I are doing that together. And we're trying to go up that chain, as well to the CFOs or sometimes CEOs in federal government, or what we would call deputy ministers or assistant deputy ministers. So moving up so that they know what we're doing for them and they know what we're doing for their clients, particularly their end users. So those are the things that we've done. I've always done that, but now I can do it more effectively.
Yeah, and look, I come from the Coca-Cola system, and
Yeah.
I must admit, one thing they did brilliantly well was called top-to-top meetings, right? Where we'd get the most senior people in our company, most senior people in the customer, and have a planning day for the next 5 years or something. And it was amazing what came out of those days when we got out of the day-to-day business, right? So I think it's so important to do that, and no doubt that's going to sustain your growth moving forward. And do you think, from a time perspective, are you spending the same amount of time in the business as what you did and just allocating it differently, or are you spending less time?
I'd say less time and definitely differently. So, Paul, I took today to really think about this program with you. I dialed in and listened to one of your podcasts where I'd listened to before. I read some of the stuff online. I canceled a meeting or two. And I thought to myself, I'm going to look at a day a week and do the same. I had some great books here, Think and Grow Rich, which I'm on third or fourth reading, and some other fantastic books you want to read, strategy, and just to get your head out of the game, because those thoughts do come to you smartly, the ones that you need to go forward. I can't remember who said it, Gates or Jobs, said something about success. You don't really see the steps, maybe Bezos. You don't see the steps while you're doing them. You see them in hindsight. We can see smartly that we said 6 years ago, let's go after software. I could say a year ago, and we were doing information management, forever, but now it's coming into complete focus, because you can say, hey, I can tell you about this customer, this customer, this customer, and those experience are going to help you. And we're going to do it differently for you. We have all the knowledge of how to do it and how not to do it for you, right?
Yeah,
so
I think that's brilliant, because look, I once went to I can't remember which, but it was either Stanford or Harvard or whatever. It was a guy came out to Australia who worked for the Coke company globally. And he said you should spend at least a day a week on the business, right? Which is out of it. And I must admit, my best thoughts come from when I'm driving to the golf course, right? I've finally learned a way that I can leave a note with Siri so that, I don't have to touch anything when I'm driving, but I just constantly am thinking about things when I'm out of the so-called office, right? So I think it's so important to do that. And having that safe pair of hands, right? You got that GM that is going to cover most of the stuff, and the stuff that they really can't do, then they'll come to you, right? So I think it's
brilliant. They put a little different commission plan together. We just hired somebody to do something different, and they sent it to me. I said, "Okay, I don't understand that. Let's talk this morning." Now I can tell you, you look at it. I just explain it to me, and I'm questioning his thought, and their thoughts were right on. I said, okay, I get it. Thank you. So Barry, this is not personal. This is business. And I was like, fantastic. You're saying everything I want you to say. So it was really good. Definitely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. All right. Well, look, we could talk forever, but let's go into the rapid fire now. So you got 4 questions and you got less than 4 minutes to answer them. So the first one is, what are some of the daily sales habits that you do to help to accelerate the business?
I would encourage anybody to make sure on a daily basis you're attempting to reach out to a client. We actually have with all our sales team, they have a number of face-to-face meetings they must have a week. Now, of course, that really means a video often, but back in the day, we made sure they knocked on the door, they got in front of a client. Now we have long-term clients, Paul. It doesn't have to be 15, like I get that. But we had a rule of you must be in front of 5 clients a week. That's not excessive, right? And the team does it. Now I see their calls are, averaging 8 to 10 calls a week. Obviously much more video, but and it's like, we make sure that happens. So that I absolutely encourage, make sure you're doing your face-to-face calls.
Brilliant. And on the topic of sales, how do you find out more about sales? How do you keep on the pulse of what's new and what you should implement in your business?
Never stop reading about it. I can tell you that I was one of the fortunate ones coming right out of university. I literally went on a 20-week sales training program I'm going to date myself, a company called Honeywell Information Systems. But you got to laugh at yourself that, first of all, 20-week sales training program. So I certainly feel fortunate about it, but always looking to sharpen the saw and always reading how can we do better. We've done some amazing things. Again, the new VP of Sales brings in some great ideas. One of the things he did recently was put some money up for a number of calls by partner by week. And each partner, interesting one, you'll love this one, each partner has their own week. And if you do something for that partner, you get double points. And at the end of the month, there's $1,000 for the number one person. We call it the leaderboards. Yeah. Our funnel is fuller. He's certainly driving the sales, and the sales team has bought into it. You could hear it. So it's fantastic to see those kind of things.
Yeah, that's brilliant example of some gamification. And then the next one is, if we could grant you one wish today, for the business, what would it be?
That's a great question. We're a fast growth company. We expect from end of last fiscal year to 18 months from now, so in 2 years, that we will double in sales. So I would love to say growth.
Yeah.
But I want to be careful what I ask for. We're certainly growing. So, I think, when I say we've done 600% growth in 10 years, we expect, and I did the number before I got on there, that we will have grown 1,600% in 13 years. So that's 2.5 years from now. So growth, and the key there is ensuring that we manage that growth for our clients, and I expect that to happen. Thank you.
Brilliant. And the last question is, what do you know now that you wish you had have known earlier going through this 10-year journey?
That's a great question. I think the biggest challenge for any CEO and any VP of sales and salesperson, it's patience. Yeah. And it's really about doing the right things. I remember, and this is not with this company, but years ago, being VP of sales, and a young lady came in and said, "Barry, I'm not getting my sales." And she's a huge performer. She always has been. And I said, "Let's review. Are you taking the right action?" So, you're making the right calls. You're in front of the right clients. It's just not here at the moment. But if I and you can see that you're doing the right things, it's going to come. So that's patience. Patience is one thing that I encourage. Take the action, know you're taking the action, and the right things will come.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, you can find out more about Barry Doucette at, so I'll pronounce it so you've got it right. So it's orangutech.com. So it'll be in the show notes, etc. And also check out his LinkedIn, right? He's got some fantastic posts there. And say hello to him as well. Say that you heard him here on the Accelerate Sales podcast. He'll get a kick out of that. So, Barry, it's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to see. Maybe we'll have you on to see if you get to that 13 or 1,600% increase over 13 years. But you're doing all the right things, and it's just great to you to share your experience with us today.
Well, Paul, absolutely love your podcast. Thank you very much. Accelerate Sales, Paul. Podcast with Paul Higgins. Fantastic, Paul. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Barry as much as I did. He was fantastic. And I love the 3 stools to revenue growth that he talked about, how to really brand yourself within a niche, and also that value of being patient when you do pick a niche. What you enjoyed, what you learned, share on LinkedIn, give Barry a shout out. He'd love that. And also you can get the full transcript at paulhigginsmentoring.com, episode 453. And also, why not share it with others, right? So you've got other peers that would get a lot of value from this. They'll think you're a rock star by sharing it. They might also share something of value back to you. So please do that. Check out our solo shows. And if you're looking at scaling your business and you're thinking, I'm just not quite sure I've got all the elements in place. Well, I've created an ebook that shows you all those elements. It's free, and you can download it at paulhigginsmentoring.com/blueprint. And as always, please take action to accelerate your sales.
I'm fired up after today's episode. What about you? But hey, before you go, learning is just one piece of the puzzle. Now it's time to put today's strategy into action. Head over now to today's show page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast and share how you'll put it into action. Be sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe, rate, and review the show. tell me what your favorite episode is. And don't wait 1 minute more to gain access to your pulse check at paulhigginsmentoring.com. This could be the difference between struggling to get more leads and making this next quarter your best one yet.